Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host Flavia Barris as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Sandy Rodriguez. She is a bilingual communications expert and the author of motivational book, Choose to Prevail. She is a former editorial coordinator for Mexican newspaper Reforma and is one of the most influential publications in Latin America. She's translated tens of books from English to Spanish for major publishing houses. She currently lives in Los Angeles in Southern California, where she works as a certified court interpreter and offers writing and speaking services, yet still finds time to paint and make wine. Welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Flavia. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's fantastic to have you. And I love that you make wine. Tell us about making wine, because I think a lot of people have that dream, like being a winemaker. I know people who would love to be a brewer, making beer. Those are the people who like the beer more than the wine. But how did you get into that? Is it a hobby or have you taken it beyond hobby?
I'll tell you, at this point, it's just a hobby. But if anybody that is listening is thinking about doing commercially, I have to say that it's just a fascinating field. I got into that just because I was as big as a wine connoisseur that I could possibly be. I had been an editor for a publication for many years, as you mentioned, and one of my duties was editing a food and wine section. So I had gotten very much into that. And then when I came to LA at a certain point in time, I was dating a guy who was also very much into wine. So at a certain point, we decided to make wine ourselves. And we actually ended up making both Merlot and a very, very good Zinfandel. So good, in fact, that it won a bronze medal. But then a while after that, I decided to do a little bit of winemaking on my own and to do it in a way that was not as serious, even though I have to say that the process is fascinating and that the winemaking community, especially here in Southern California, is very welcoming. I decided to try something a little bit different and a little bit more playful. So what I've done in more recent years on my own is applying winemaking techniques to, let's say, cherry juice rather than grapes, or apple juice rather than grapes, and different types of fruit juices. Of course, a purist would say, well, that's not really wine. And maybe that's true, but it's just a very fun and very creative hobby that I think that if somebody were to delve into that with a little bit more free time on their hands, it could easily segue into an actual career path or an entrepreneurial venture.
That sounds like so much fun. Do you give your wine a name, like a private label of some kind?
I have to say that the ones that we made that were a little bit more serious, we did. The name of the wine label that we had was PDR Cellars. PDR stands for Playa del Rey, and that is where they were made. But the more recent ones that I have, to be honest, they're just so playful that I wouldn't think to give them a specific labeling. But they're just so fun, and they make great presents for friends, especially because when you're doing this on a hobby level, it would even be illegal to sell them. But let me tell you, I'm a very popular party guest when I bring one of those as a hostess gift.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely positive of that. Well, that's a great story. So how did you end up in your current career? Because right now, tell us a little bit about what you do. I did read your bio out to everyone, but give a little color to what that really means. What is it to be a certified interpreter? You do some writing and speaking services as well. Give us a little bit more background on all of that and also how you ended up there.
Oh, absolutely. For many years, I was, as you were saying, an editorial coordinator for one of the leading newspapers in Latin America. I was living in Mexico City at the time. And to be honest, it was a career path that I was very passionate about. At that time, I had not even given any thought to becoming an entrepreneur because I was, firstly, very passionate about my job. Secondly, be fully consumed by it to the degree that I had literally no time for anything else of any nature. And that is what led me to move to LA in pursuit of something that was a little bit more laid back. And I found it in the form of a new career path that I really love, which is court interpreting. Now, it is also, let's say, a very demanding full-time job, certainly, but it does give me the opportunity to be home by, say, 5:30, 6:30 at the most, unlike journalism, which will keep you in the newsroom for 18 hours a day. So then when I found myself having a little bit more spare time, I'm the kind of person that likes to be very much involved in a number of projects. So I started doing many other things. Firstly, I became an artist and I started selling a few of my paintings, and that was exciting. But then people kept reaching out for writing services, which is understandable because I had worked in publishing for so long. And I started a second career, which is freelance writing services that kind of came to me. It kind of fell into my lap with people requesting ghostwriting and editing and different kinds of writing services for their companies. But then I decided to write a book of my own, and I wrote a motivational book that was a little bit different from what I had seen. And I was very familiar with books in general because of virtue of having worked in publishing, and also with motivational books in particular, because right when I moved to LA, but before I found the wonderful career path that is interpreting, I was asked to translate books for major publishing houses. All of these books were bestsellers because, Flavia, no publishing house will ever commission a translation for any book other than a proven bestseller. And many of these books were indeed self-help or motivational, although there were certainly business books, medical books, novels, a number of different things, but many were self-help or motivational. So I got the understanding of what was work in today's market, what I liked about them, what I did not like about them. And I guess that kind of got stuck in my mind in some part that it wasn't like front and center of my bucket list or anything like that. But at a certain point in time in 2020, I felt that the time was right for me to write my own motivational book. And I did so in a way that I have to say is very different from any of the other motivational books that I had read or translated in the past. I didn't write it specifically to attract any market, and money was not my main motivation. I just thought that it would be an interesting project and possibly helpful to people that were looking for something a little bit different and were seeking a little bit more confidence and a little bit more of a sense of peace in their lives. So I wrote this very conversational, slightly humorous, very, very unique motivational book and just planned an interesting virtual launch. When I say interesting, I mean that I wanted to do something a little bit more elaborate than just being seated with my computer at my kitchen table. So we actually shot it as a TV show, as a live TV show at a green screen studio in Burbank in Southern California. We had original music written for the event. We had a sommelier design different types of drinks that would be sent out. Well, the recipes would be sent out to the people watching the launch. And then after the event was completed, and what we did was we had it edited and it was streamed on a brand new streaming platform. So it became something a little bit more elaborate than your standard virtual event. And that led to a number of things that all of a sudden had me thinking of myself as a solopreneur rather than just a writer.
I love your book launch. That is brilliant. I just love that you turned a book launch into a TV show, really, and that is not just creative, but you said it was a new streaming platform that you launched on. Do you think that the fact you were an early adopter of that platform made a big difference in your viewing numbers as well?
It made a tremendous difference, and it was good for that platform, and it was good for me. It was good for the book. And let me tell you why. So the thing is that the launch, let's say it attracted attention. I wouldn't say like, in the millions or anything like that, but it was definitely more attention than I might have attracted if I had just done something not quite as elaborate from home. And the company that owns the streaming platform, it's a company that I often collaborate with. Its name is Heart of Hollywood, and the name of the platform is Heart of Hollywood Cinema. So what happened was that they tapped me a few months after the launch to see if I would like to host video series based on the book. So that's what we're working on at the time of this recording. At this time, what's happening is that I'm working on this series. It's a video series. It's going to be a 12-part series where I will be speaking with people who have overcome major challenges in their life, be they regarding health or finance, family, different kinds of things. And these are also people that have been impacted in some personal way by the book. And that's pretty much the concept. So we're working on that as we speak. And that, up to a certain point, became an entrepreneurial venture in and of itself. Book sales have been quite favorable. At this time, we have about 120 reviews on Amazon. And there is also a push by the company, Heart of Hollywood, to offer book-themed merchandise. So, for example, people that go on the site can purchase T-shirts that are inspired by the book, and so on. So it wasn't that I set out to become a small business or a solopreneur when I wrote the book. That was really the furthest thing from my mind. But somehow that's what came to happen. And I think it's very exciting because at this point, I'm still a full-time employee. I enjoy my work as a court interpreter very much, but I actually say that I have the time and I'm really enjoying my entrepreneurial venture as an author and as a promoter of the book and its related projects. And I think that it's interesting that I'm doing both things at this time because I remember that when I heard your story, you yourself were practicing law while you were also venturing out into entrepreneurship. And I think it's interesting for your listeners to see that that can be possible if one wants to do that. Some people do enjoy holding a steady job while also venturing out on their own. And I see nothing wrong with that. I personally adore being an employee. It's one of my favorite things. I know that would not be the case for everyone, certainly, but I feel that I can do both. And I also feel that should I decide to stop working for a company or a corporation or any employer in the future, I now feel that it can certainly be done simply by focusing energy on the other project, which is the small business side.
Well, you certainly have a lot in store. Tell us, what is the name of the book so that someone can find it on Amazon? And also, how do they get on the list to find out more about the upcoming TV series about the book?
Thank you so much. Well, the book is titled Choose to Prevail by Sandy Rodriguez. And it's very widely available at this time. It's available through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com, Target.com. Well, I've even seen it on eBay Australia, for instance. It's really very widely available at this time. As for the series, okay, it will be shown later this year on a platform called Heart of Hollywood Cinema. At this point, the platform is in its beta stage and it was open for individual projects to be streamed. That is how my book launch came to be streamed even prior to the full launch of the platform itself. But the idea is that once the web series is completely ready after the post-production stage, the platform will be already up and running. And this will be one of its many offerings. It's a very interesting opportunity, I think, for many of your listeners that might have some kind of video content that they wish to distribute. This platform will be open to both studio productions and independent productions, be they movies, series, music videos, any kind of video content that the producer owns the right to is going to be welcomed onto this platform, and contracts are not exclusive. So a person could feasibly distribute their, let's say, movie or music video through this platform or through Amazon or through Netflix or whatever the case may be. In my case, I have no financial interest in that company. I have nothing to gain from recommending this, but that's what I'm doing myself because I think that being, as you said, an early adopter is a wise idea. I have a lot of trust in the fact that this streaming platform at a certain point in time will simply explode because it offers certain things that others do not at this time. For example, this is a platform that will have a very strong focus on multicultural content, which is something interesting and also very popular these days. Also, I think that the fact that it's non-exclusive is also very appealing. So that's something to think about for people that might be listening and interested in distributing content.
Yes, thanks for teaching us and so that we can learn about heartofhollywood.com. I think it sounds fantastic, something to go check out, especially if it's still in beta and an up and coming new platform for all kinds of entertainment, not just for people that might want to be on the platform as providers of content, but also people who want to see something new. Believe me, I've heard a lot of people say they are burned out on Netflix. I think the last year, COVID has really kind of burned us out on a lot of entertainment because the same thing over and over. And to have a completely new platform to dive into and explore, I think is going to appeal to a lot of our listeners too. So for you, as you say, you're a solopreneur, you're in an entrepreneurial venture, but you're still holding on to your full-time job, a job you've had for a while that you're very good at and that is something you don't really want to let go of. But do you think there will be a point in time where if the demands of being a solopreneur, if this gets launched soon and all of a sudden the demands on your time are much more for this TV series and your book, maybe you'll even have offers that will require you to travel for your book, maybe book signings, these kinds of things. Do you think that you ever would leave your job, or do you think that you would just say no to some of those entrepreneurial ventures and opportunities because it would interfere with your job?
Well, let me tell you, I found that interpreting is something that I sincerely love, but I think that if push should come to shove, I would do exactly what you're saying and perhaps walk away from a permanent position. However, what I do think I would do, seeing that I really like it so much, is find a way to also work it into my life. For example, when I walked away from journalism because it really was all consuming to the degree of not allowing me to have any semblance of a normal life, let alone delve into entrepreneurship, I did walk away from that. Certainly, it took me a while. That was a decade and a half into my career. I eventually did, though. But even to this day, I still write for different media outlets, both in Mexico and here in the US. I also edit a couple of magazines. So I found a way to still engage in my passion for writing and editing, even though it is by no means my full-time job at this time. So I'm guessing that if I were to walk away from my full-time interpreting position at some point in time, because time constraints required me to do so, what I would most likely do is find a way to take on the occasional interpreting assignment, because it's really a very fascinating field. And let me tell you, I feel that for time-strapped people that are bilingual or multilingual, that might be something to consider as well as an additional source of income or revenue, because of one very simple fact. I think that, to me at least, the main draw or the main appeal of interpreting, first, that for me it's super fun and super interesting. But the main draw is that it's one of the very few activities that I have ever seen, Flavia, where everything is done in real time. There really is no pre-planning that you can do. And once you're done, you're done. There is nothing to wait for. There is nothing to take home. There is nothing to keep thinking about. And that, I think that's very unique. For example, when we work, let's say in pretty much any other field, for example, as a writer, you're doing something now, which is the act of writing, to reap some rewards in the future, after it's edited, after it's published, after somebody read it, that would be your reward. But that takes time. Same thing with pretty much anything. If you're a pastry chef, you would have to bake pies now and enjoy them maybe a few hours from now. Winemaking, well, that's definitely the case. It might take about a year and so on. But in the case of interpreting, it's an activity that you do in the moment and you're done. And in fact, I also know that many people have decided to set up interpreting businesses, agencies as a venture, as a business, as a standalone business. So that's also something that maybe I wouldn't do because I would be too busy with my glamorous TV career. But I think that an interpreting business would also be something that many of your listeners might consider, especially if they are very well versed in more than one language.
What fabulous advice. And I think there are a lot of people that listen to this show only to get inspired by all of the different professions and businesses that are out there. Because trust me, I've had guests that do all kinds of things. You are our first interpreter, by the way, but probably not our first person that has a big film project coming up, not our first author. But if I laid all the different books that authors have spoken about on the podcast on the table, it would run the gamut. It'd be so many different topics and types of things. And I love that. I love learning about what everyone's up to. And I think it's very inspiring, not just for me, but for people who listen, because we all do want to see what is the best job for me. Everyone has that question. I mean, we have that question even when we're 4 or 5 years old. Everyone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so we're sort of forced to look inside and inwards and come up with an answer at 5 years old. But sometimes you're, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, and you still are not sure what that next thing that you want to be is. And work is such an important part of our life. I love that you've been a court interpreter because I think you've probably seen a lot of really interesting things. What is one of the most interesting, and I mean, it's public record, so you can probably talk about it because, a court is a public hearing. What is one of the most interesting things that you have seen in the courtroom?
I think it's something very interesting that I have seen in the courthouse as a whole, which is this. I have worked in both a criminal courthouse and a civil courthouse. Now, the interesting thing that I have noticed is that people get way more, let's say, aggressive or vocal in civil courthouses than in criminal. You might not expect that. You might expect, well, that doesn't really make sense. But I do think that in the case of criminal courthouses, people are on their best behavior. They are obviously necessarily represented by an attorney. They are also, let's say, a little bit more fearful. And oftentimes crimes occur because of, let's say, somebody's need for money or a number of things that are not necessarily very personal. Whereas in civil courthouses, emotions run rampant. It's normally a situation where it's not so much money that's at stake necessarily, but more like situations where people are involved in some kind of situation where there's a lot of animosity or a lot of bad blood. So people tend to be a lot more aggressive. One would never assume that that is the case, but that's been my experience.
That is interesting. It doesn't surprise me too. People get very emotional at being wronged. I once heard this told as sort of one of the reasons that we have developed a system of courts and a system of law and to give people a forum where they can hash out their disputes. And that is so that we can prevent people from just duking it out on the street with fistfights. It's a way to prevent violence, is to give an outlet that is structured and orderly and with a due process involved so that we actually prevent people from tearing at each other's throats, because people do get very emotional and very just caught up in sort of vengeance or the principle of something. And I find that very fascinating that you picked up on that in all of your years there to sort of back up that theory that I heard.
I think that we can all think of examples or even just imaginary examples or things of, for instance, if you never pay for your spouse, that would be way more upsetting, right? And one would definitely be more akin to a crime, and the other one would be more akin to something that you would bring to, say, a family court. So it's quite interesting that people get much more upset when things have to do with their personal life or feeling disrespected than they do about being cheated out of money, interestingly enough.
Well, I've learned so much from chatting with you. I can't wait to see your TV show. I'm going to check out this heartofhollywood.com platform to get dialed into that so that I can see not just your show, which sounds great, but I'm sure there will be lots of really fantastic content coming up on that. And I hope that your book, Choose to Prevail, continues to just hit it out of the park. You're a fantastic person to chat with. I want to follow your career, and I want to thank you so much for being on the show today with us.
Thank you so much. Let me just clarify. The name of the platform is Heart of Hollywood Cinema. So that would be the full name of the platform, just to make it clear, because there might be something else by the name of Heart of Hollywood. This is Heart of Hollywood Cinema. And that would be wonderful. I would be more than happy to connect with any of your listeners that might care to do so on social as well.
Fantastic. Yes. Please look up Sandy Rodriguez, the author of Choose to Prevail, and also the upcoming co-producer. I'm sure you're involved in all levels of the TV show coming up that I'm assuming is called Choose to Prevail, but let us know if it's a different title for that.
It's exactly the same title. Choose to Prevail the book and Choose to Prevail the show. Same name for the both of them.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. We'll keep an eye out for both the show and check out that book, and hope to have you on the podcast again sometime soon.
Thank you so much, Flavia.
Guess what, lifestyle solopreneurs? If you don't yet have an online business earning you enough passive income to live the life of your dreams, I'd like to suggest you consider trying out Kajabi. Kajabi is an all-in-one solution where you can create and teach online courses, publish a paid newsletter, launch a free or paid podcast, process payments, build one-on-one coaching portals for your clients, and much, much more. I personally use Kajabi to power numerous successful and profitable online businesses. Lifestyle solopreneurs, there's a free trial of Kajabi waiting for you at this link, www.kajabi.com. kfreetrial.com. You can try Kajabi for free, no obligation, by going to www.kfreetrial.com. Again, kfreetrial.com, and that K stands for Kajabi. Starting an online business helped me break free from that corporate grind, and I hope it does the same for you. You have nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, and see you next time.